very good afternoon to all present here. And believe me, I'm here only to share my experiences. Each one of you has enough knowledge, enough strength of taking the subject forward. But having just a couple of years more experience maybe is the reason why Madhuban wanted me to do this webinar with all of you. What actually at times pains me is that, the subject, social science or environmental science, is taken very, very lightly. People tend to feel, oh, what is there to study in social science? And why should one study social science? Why not math? Why not science? Why not chemistry? Why not physics? Why study history? Why study geography? I think my simple answer to that is consistently the same every time, is that when you are in a social gathering, when you are meeting people, and when you have to strike a conversation, I think the first thing that questions that normally come up is, today's weather seems to be hot, or today the weather is very, very good. It's nice, and you've got cool breeze blowing and stuff like that. You're referring to social science. If you're talking about, the economic index, look at the way the prices are shooting up. This is not correct. The prices have gone up, prices have gone down. We're talking about economics, which again is related to social science. Or you talk about civics, or you talk about the political scenario of your country or internationally. You are talking about all these, or you're talking about something that's related to history. This happened so many years ago. Why is it repeating itself? Or history is repeating itself. We never ever talk about E is equal to MC square when we are in a public gathering. So why have we allowed our subject to have taken a backseat? I think we should be proud of the fact that, we are teachers of social science and environmental science. And, with that pride, take the subject forward, because I have seen so many times, where teachers are so hesitant to say, oh, I teach history or I teach geography. There's never that pride in their, in their voice when they say, a math teacher say, oh, I teach math. A history teacher will look around and say, oh, I teach history. But there is so much that one can do in terms of developing the 21st century skills in this subject. Shweta, can we just start? I think this was just a brief introduction. If you can share my screen, share the presentation so that, I don't miss on points, because once I start talking, I just go off tangent. And I remember once my student saying, that she goes around the whole world and comes back to a point. We don't know where we started and we don't know where we are ending. So I don't want that to happen in this 1.5 hour session that we have. Time is short and there's plenty to share. I would really, really appreciate all teachers to please put in your questions, because, when it is interactive, it's much more fun than when it is a monologue where I'm doing all the talking and you're doing all the listening. It becomes boring. But when I have questions that come up, it could be a question that may be related to one of you, or there may be more of you who would want answers to a similar question. I'd be very happy to share my thoughts on those questions. So please feel free to ask whatever is required whenever you feel so. Yeah.
Ma'am, are you able to see the screen?
I can't see it yet. I can see Stalin has started sharing screen, but I can't see your screen yet.
No, because we're able to see the screen, ma'am.
I'm not able to see it, Shweta. Can everybody see the screen? Maybe there's some...
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, everyone's able to see.
Oh, okay.
Ma'am, no problem. We are all able to see the screen. If you can just open the PPT on the phone also, and you can go ahead and keep telling us to change the slide, we'll change the slide.
All right. I think not a bad idea, but where I wanted to do map work, I don't know how we will be able to do that without my access to the same. Okay. Let me see. No. No, I can't. I can't see the screen. I can't see the screen at all.
All of us are able to see, and we're able to see you also. Okay, ma'am, when it comes to map, we will try and see what best we can do. But let's just get started with the session, ma'am.
Sure. So, as I said, why is it important to study social science? I just made a brief, introduction to it because it prepares you for different ways of life. Social science helps you to integrate. This is one subject which is cross-curricular, which helps in integrating so many subjects together. It is not a single subject. It is not one subject. It integrates and it actually deals with society per se. So it helps your brain to create a library. It helps you to have more information in order to make your own conclusion when it comes to current affairs and world affairs. For example, in maths, 2 plus 2 is 4. But when we are talking about science, or when we are talking about history, or we are talking about geography, or we are talking about any other social science subjects, 2 and 2 could be anything because it requires your own interpretation to what you have understood. I'll give you a simple example. When we were studying history young, my teacher said, look out of the window and see what you observe. Now, I could have observed a tree, somebody else could have observed a building, somebody else could have observed a car that was parked. Now, if all of this is documented, it is history. Because tomorrow, when this documented perspective comes across, it will be from somebody else's perspective. So I have perceived it from the point of view of a tree. You may have observed it from the point of view of a house or whatever it is. So it helps you to develop. So when we are talking about critical thinking, it helps you to understand that, the subject can be looked at in various ways. You could have debates on it. You may agree, you may disagree, but there is always a scope for some interaction to happen. That is why it helps you to draw your own conclusion. It gives you tools and materials to work with no matter what you choose to do with your life. So, it helps, Shweta, without seeing the screen, I'm feeling a little unnerved and I'm finding it a little difficult to actually go ahead and...
Ma'am, would you like to then log in through your phone? Because even on the phone, you'll be able to see the screen. Would you like to try doing that once?
Yeah, because as soon as we finish with this, you have the map of India. And unless... so it's just, let's try and see if I can do the map of India from my laptop. Otherwise, I'll log in from my phone.
Okay, just change the slide. Go to the map slide, no, please. Stalin? Okay. Yeah, thank you. Are you able to see, ma'am?
No. No, I'm not.
Okay, ma'am, in that case, I would request you if you can log in through your phone and see, because on the phone also you'll be able to view the screen. And so you can just...
Would I be able to do the markings, etc. also from my phone?
Yeah, we'll enable the annotations and then you can do it on the
phone. So I'm not logging off yet. I'm not logging off from here yet till I get connected from my phone. The minute
no, ma'am, actually only if you log off here, you will be able to log into your phone.
Okay. All right. So yeah. I'm logging off now. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So, teachers, sorry for the technical issue that we're facing since we're all in this digital world now. I think this is a little technical hitch that we're facing. I would request you all to please bear for 2 minutes till ma'am is logging in from her phone. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Okay, thank you so much, all of you replying on the chat box. No problem. Thank you. It's okay. So thank you all so much. Thank you. It's really kind of you. Because we, earlier in the initial, when we started the webinar, we used to face a lot of technical issues. Then slowly we all got used to it, like both the resource people and I guess all of us, you as teachers also, and we all here. But now again, I think there are suddenly, the digital gives us surprises. So we all just get new surprises every day. I'll just check if ma'am is joined in. Yeah. Ma'am, are you able to hear me? Ma'am, your mic is on mute, ma'am. Can you unmute, ma'am? I've just asked to unmute. Just click OK. Yeah. Okay, ma'am.
I have been able to unmute. Yeah.
So now are you able to see the screen, ma'am?
Wait, I'll have to come to that. Yeah, I can see the screen now. I can see the screen.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. So we go back to the PPT and then come to the map?
Yes, we can do that. We can do that.
Okay. Stalin, just, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I think the first one we've already done. I was talking about the second slide, which is to develop essential skills such as critical thinking. Now, what according to everybody is critical thinking? What is critical thinking? When we talk, it's a very, it's a term that is so often used, but are we really using it in the right perspective? Are we even thinking about it? So when we talk about critical thinking, the question that comes up is why? For example, we talk about, Mohenjo-daro and this place, Harappa. We got to know a lot about it through exploration and excavation. What do you understand by the term excavation and exploration? I would always suggest that, to bring surprises to the children, hide all the stuff. For example, a little bit of the artifacts that have been found during those times, if you can find some clay model or some tablets, etc., hide it somewhere in your school building and ask the children to go and find where, have a treasure hunt kind of a thing. Ask them to explore, ask them to dig, and then bring it all back to the class and, then tell them that this is what you understand by what exploration and excavation means. Help them to think that this is what needs to be done to make the lesson come alive. Otherwise, it becomes very mundane and very boring. Similarly, questioning, the art of questioning. Don't give answers just like that. I was just discussing with Shweta a little while back, and I said, you ask the children and you say, what do you see? What is the color of the sky? And the answer will be, okay, the sky is blue in color. And then you ask them, why is the sky looking blue in color? What is the reason why it's blue in color? So give them that opportunity to question, give them the thought to start thinking that, there is a reason why the sky appears blue in the morning and why it becomes light blue in the afternoon and why does it become pink and orange and red in the evening. There is a certain reason for it. So environment, when we talk about environmental science, we are talking about learning from the environment. And learning from the environment can only happen if we start making observations, if we observe the environment. There are things, I am sure there are some geography teachers around here And the question that comes up in grade 5 or grade 6 is, why do we see only one side of the moon? You'd never see the other side of the moon. Have we ever thought of making the children actually observe the night sky? For example, and I'm sure, you know, this is something that came to me during the lockdown. Even I wasn't that, you know, I also took it as, okay, it's fine. We see only one side of the moon. And then in the 29-day cycle of the moon, I suddenly realized that when you see the crescent moon, when the moon rises in the crescent form, it rises in the west. Whereas when you see the full moon rise, it rises in the east. I had never observed it. Now, when you start asking children to observe facts like this, obviously the lesson comes alive. You know, then the thing of questioning. So, you know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. That happens every single day. But that does not happen where the moon is concerned. So there has to be an apparent reason for it. So making connections, adapting to new situations, all these factors come in when we observe and we closely connect ourselves with what is around us. So this is how you can make your classrooms actually come alive. Shweta, can we go to the next slide, please? So I think the art of map marking. It's a very, very important art. And if you, things like, you know, understanding where the northeastern states are concerned, I normally give them an acronym as AN and MAM. ANMAM. So, Shweta, can I write on this? So, can I do something here? Is it possible?
Yes, ma'am, you can write, ma'am.
Okay, so we know that, can you see what I am doing? Can it be seen? No.
No, it is not visible on the screen. I think you will have to share your screen. I'll just check on that, ma'am. You go ahead. I'll just check on that, ma'am. Just a moment. Yes.
Sure. So, the Seven Sisters is something which is very, very difficult for even us as adults to actually understand. So, I tried to make it simple by adding an acronym of ANMAM. So, when we are talking of ANMAM, we say that first state that you have in the Northeast is Arunachal Pradesh. You come down, N is for Nagaland. Further down you come is Manipur, and the last one below that is Mizoram. So you get these 4 states, then find out the states that are bordering Bangladesh. You have Tripura, then you have over here, you have Meghalaya, and you have Sikkim, of course, which is bordering the 2 Himalayan kingdoms, which is Bhutan as well as Nepal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the middle you have Assam.
Ma'am, sorry, can I interrupt? Just a moment. So, ma'am, only if you share your screen here, we will be able to view, because you can write on the screen. We have enabled the annotation, but only if you share the screen, we will be able to view your screen here. So, would you like to share your screen, ma'am?
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay. Stalin, can you please stop sharing the screen? Thank you, Stalin.
So I'll have to go to my PPT, right?
Your PPT is already open, ma'am.
I have gone to allow display over other apps.
Just come back to the Zoom meeting, and at the bottom you will have share option. Yeah, now you can share the PPT here, ma'am.
It says stop share.
No, if your PPT is already open, you can just open it here, ma'am.
1 minute, I'll have to first open my PPT. It is open. I think this is getting a bit complicated.
No, ma'am, not at all. Just take a moment. Yeah, open the PPT. Correct. Now, just click on the slide. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have clicked on it. Now, is it visible?
Can you see?
Yes, we're able to see your screen, ma'am. Probably after map, we will share our screen again, but for map, we will use your screen. So just
All
write
right.
something for me to confirm if it is visible.
It's not writing, but I can actually, no. Can you see me pointing out here at Arunachal? No.
No, ma'am.
Then I don't know. I don't know how to do this.
Acha, no problem, ma'am. Then we'll go ahead with the PPT itself. No issues. We'll go ahead with the PPT, ma'am. No problem. So you
But-
stop sharing, ma'am. You stop sharing, and I'll just start sharing from our side.
All right, I've stopped sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Stalin, can you please share your screen? And if you want, we will try this. I can ask him to write here. Stalin, we have enabled the annotations. Could you write something on the screen and see if it is working?
Yeah, 1 sec. Yeah.
This is the timeline, not this one, the previous one.
Yeah, on பண்ணி பேசணும். Yeah, we can able to write it.
Just go to the map slide.
Map. 1 second. Let me take this ball pen. Go to that.
Previous slide, previous. Yeah, right. So whatever state ma'am is saying, wherever you understand, I hope we know where the state is. Just try to mark it.
Sorry, ma'am, we are very bad at it. But still, you can help us, and we will make sure.
Okay, can you come to the northeast? Can you mark on top? No, not this. Come further. Now, what you are marking is my state, Haryana. Come further. You have to come to the east.
Sikkim.
Furthermore.
Yeah. So that is Sikkim. That is between. So we would ask questions that mark the state which is found between two Himalayan kingdoms, and it is Sikkim because it is Bhutan on one end, and it is Nepal on the other end. You come further down. So what I was trying to explain is to find, it's very easy to remember the seven sisters. You remember Meghalaya is to the north of Bangladesh, and you have Tripura, which is to the east of Bangladesh, and in the middle you have Annam. So you have Arunachal, then you have Nagaland, you have Manipur, and then you have Mizoram, and in between you have Assam. So that way you will be able to kind of help children to understand that the seven sisters by the acronym ANMAM. Now, finding locations of places also, it's not difficult if you understand the contours of the state. I really wish I could mark this, because it is so easy to understand map marking once you know how to do this.
Ma'am, Stalin and Pradeep, can you just see the political map here and mark it? Like political map is also available there on the screen itself.
Yeah.
So you can see there, and you can just try to mark.
But I don't have the stylus in my hand, no. So how can I mark?
I'm asking Stalin to mark it so that they can just demonstrate whatever you are trying to say.
Yeah.
It's a social science exam for you, I guess, today.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, so never mind if we can do it. It'll be great. If we can't, then maybe some other time when I'm able to actually put this together. Because why I believe that this map marking is so simple is because I was teaching in a class, and one of my ex-students came into my class, and he was able to mark the places ditto. So he said, so that's when I felt, that if I have taught this child more than 10 years ago how to do map marking, and he still remembers it till date, it means that this method is effective. And after that, I have taken on to doing this. If you, Stalin,
Yes.
If you go to the north and mark across in Kashmir, just go horizontal. North. Can you do that? No. No, you can't. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult. So I think we can skip this.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
can
We should
actually skip
skip
this
this
because
and we
it's
will,
not.
yeah, we'll move with the next slide, ma'am. So you
Yeah.
can just brief us about the map and then we'll move ahead, ma'am. We can just skip
Yeah.
this
So,
slide.
if you go with the latitude and longitude of the various states, you will be able to mark all the cities. And once you are able to mark the major capital cities of the various states, then marking other cities in relation to them becomes very, very simple. For example, if you take the north and you mark one line horizontally across Kashmir, that is from the one that is bordering Pakistan and the one that is bordering China, you take it horizontally like that and then take one line vertical from half. You will be able to place all the cities that are there. Then if you mark the Tropic of Cancer across, you will be able to mark Gandhinagar, you will be able to mark Bhopal, you will be able to mark Ranchi, you will be able to mark all these cities that lie across. And of course, the Aizawl, which is there, the capital of Tripura. All these cities you'll be able to mark very, very simply. So if you see the political map, you can see that they all lie more or less on the same latitude. See the one that is already the marked one. Can you see? You have all of them more or less. See, Ranchi, Bhopal, Gandhinagar, Aizawl are all situated on the same latitude. Similarly, if you see Chennai, Bangalore, as well as Mangalore, all three, Chennai, Bangalore, all three lie on the same latitude. So if we can teach our children in relationship, map marking becomes very, very simple. Are you kind of getting what I'm trying to say? Yeah?
Yes, ma'am. We can see yes in the chat box. Yeah, yeah.
So can we move on to the timeline now, Shweta?
Yes, ma'am. Sure, sure. We'll move to the next slide.
All right. Timeline is another thing, where we talk about before BCE and AD. Children find this concept very abstract. It is an abstract concept and it's very, very difficult for them to understand. So I tried to make it simple that, when you talk about 0 year, you mark the 0 year as the year you were born. So say supposing your child is in grade 5 and the child is 10 years old. So the year that he was born, mark that as 0. Okay. The year of birth of Christ. So that is BCE, that's 0 year. And mark all of the people who were born before the child on the axis, which is on the left. So whether it was your parents or whether it's your grandparents, you mark the year when they were born, put all of them before your birth. So BCE, just keep marking that and you will get timeline of who was born before you. Similarly, you can add on the right axis all those who were born after you. For example, if you have a sibling who's younger than you, or you have a friend who's younger than you, the year of birth, right, the children will be kind of able to understand the concept of before Christ and after the death of Christ. Otherwise, for them to understand that, 32 and 526, you say 526 BC, the before Common Era. I know it's before Common Era now. It's not before Christ because it is now, I'm still going back to what we learned. So, and pardon me for that. But, they are able to understand that 32 BCE is more recent compared to 320 BCE. Whereas when you come to AD, the 1000 AD is old compared to 2000 AD. So they are then able to kind of understand conceptually that there is a difference between BCE and AD. Are you kind of getting what I'm saying? Shweta, I'm finding this a little difficult because I am not able to kind of get any kind of response.
No, we're getting the responses on the chat box, ma'am. They're replying yes, yes, yes.
So if there are any questions where they need clarity on this, I'll be more than happy to answer.
So teachers, you once again, ma'am, can you explain once again? One teacher's replied on the chat box. If you can explain once again.
So see, if you see the timeline gives you, everything. For example, the 0 year is, you ask the child to mark the 0 year as the year that the child was born in. Say, for example, if the child was born in, say, 2010, let's say that. So 2010, you mark red where that line is shown, and then let them mark the year their parents were born. For example, the mother may have been born in 1980 or 1975, whatever. So all that, and the grandparents could be 1960 or 1950 or whatever it could be. All that you mark on the left. Then, say, supposing the child's sibling was born in, say, 2012 or 2013, start marking that on the right. That way, the concept of understanding before and after would become much easier. This is just an idea. You can try it out. I tried it out. It worked. You can try it out if it works, or then I'm sure you will be able to derive your own practices of how to make this easy. Okay. I think I can see that they are able to understand that. So can we go into the next slide, Shweta? So
Yes.
when we are talking, now I'm going to be talking basically about EVS from the point of view of primary school. Primary children understand. Can you hear me?
Yeah, ma'am, we're able to hear you. If few
I
teachers
saw
don't
somebody
have
not
enabled the audio, ma'am, so no problem. We're able to hear you, ma'am. If we
All
are
right.
not, I'll intimate, ma'am.
Yeah. So when you're learning for the environment, about the environment, and through the environment. EVS is all about the environment, right? When we talk about for the environment, it is about being sensitive. It's about sensitizing people about how you need to take care of the environment. About the environment, you're learning everything about the environment, whether you're talking about plants or animals or water or physical features or whatever. It is all about the environment. And through the environment, they always say that the environment is your third teacher. You learn from the environment because children understand conceptually about the environment. For example, for the little children, they understand that when it's cold, they need to wear something warm. And when it's hot, they need to wear something which is cool. This is the environment teaching them whatever needs to be done. And the best way to learn concepts in EVS is through project work. Now, when we talk about project work can be done either individually or in collaboration. Why did you divide Andhra Pradesh and Telangana? I don't know that. Okay. So when we are doing a project, either you can give the project to children to do individually. For example, you can ask the children to make brochures related to a state of their own liking. Can you explain about timeline again? Later, I will try and explain timeline again to you. So, say supposing, Shweta, can you show the picture that we had, I had shared with you related to
the culture, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay, just move to the next slide, please. Next. Go on. Furthermore. Next. Yeah, just please.
Can you just, can it be, so we had, it is possible to give group assignments online. It is possible. For example, we've tried this out ourselves, where, we had clubbed a couple of children. It again depends on the internet connectivity of these children and also about the parents being okay about sharing. If they are not, then I can understand that group activity cannot happen, but parents are more than happy to allow their children to work in groups. So, for example, let's take the state, since you're part of South India. Okay, let me take Tamil Nadu.
Okay, let's take the state of Tamil Nadu. When we are talking about the state of Tamil Nadu, you can divide the children to do things like the language. Where did the language derive from? And understand that Tamil is the oldest language that is possibly there in the world. Then you can divide them. You can ask the children, what is the script like? Then you can ask some children, what are the types of food that people eat? Now, if the type of food is eaten, for example, whatever they eat, why is it that all the food stuff is related to rice and dal or whatever is grown culturally? So then it becomes easy for them to understand. It becomes easy for them to understand that you can talk about the history of Tamil Nadu, you can talk about the agricultural produce of Tamil Nadu, you can talk about the food, you can talk about the clothes, you can talk about the weaving that happens. It can expand to any level, to any length that the teacher wants you to take through. So this is what you can do as far as project is concerned. But what is very, very important is that you have to encourage and you have to give the children the rubric for what is going to be the criteria for the assessment. How are you going to assess how are you going to assess children? Are you going to assess children on whether the group activity went on well or whether it did not go well? Rubrics, self-assessment forms, etc., gives a very good yardage to make the project work successful. You can see here the children have done some project work related to this Punjab here, where you have everything related to Punjab displayed, the fulkari, the food, etc., etc., all of that, right? Surveys, role plays are also very, very good way of explaining how to take EVS forward. I'll give you an example. Of how we did surveys. For example, you can give breakout rooms. Correct. Breakout rooms can be given, and this can be done. We wanted the children for grade 1, we wanted them to see the growth of a plant from a seed to how a sapling grows. So we asked the children to bring seeds from home, whether it was rajma or chana or whatever. And all of that, they put it into a little glass bottle. And then they saw the roots coming out, and then they saw the shoot coming out, and then they put it out in the sun. Germination, absolutely. They saw that, and they documented on everyday basis what changes that they see in the seed. So this entire project took about week 10 days. And in the week 10 days, every child made their own observation and they put it together. Yeah. So this is just one. Similarly, they can do the life cycle of a butterfly, from a caterpillar to a butterfly, and see how all of that is done. These are various projects that can be taken up to make sure that, you make the topic interesting. Field work also, when you're taking them out on a field visit, I know it's not possible right now because of the lockdown and because of COVID. But, when we do take them on a field visit, make sure that they know from the beginning what is the learning outcome that they are looking at. Then find out, for example, yes, virtual field trips are very, very good. We just did that. For example, when we did the Congo, if you can share, Shweta, the YouTube link on the Congo basin.
Yes, ma'am.
That we just did. In fact, yes, if they can see, it's about creating an interest in the subject. You're absolutely right. So if you can just share for a bit and we can discuss that in a while.
Sure. Stalin, can you play that YouTube link, what I had shared with you? Just run.
Yeah, we are doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Ma'am, meanwhile, can I just take questions? Few questions are here that I have received in email also.
Sure.
Okay. So there is one question which goes on saying that now, since we are all locked down in this COVID and children are not coming to the school,
yeah.
So when we are teaching social studies through this online platform, what are the activities that we can do to teach the subject? like instead of just going about the role play and other things which we do in the class, but then how do we teach with some activity or some props at our place wherever I am as a teacher, and how can I teach that?
You know, role play can also be done through online classes. What you need to do is, you know, you have to divide your class and tell them that, there is a strategy called jigsaw, you know. So through jigsaw, you divide the chapter into bits, into various parts, and ask the children, okay, so can we see this first and then come back to the question?
Sure, ma'am.
Welcome back to my channel. I'm Aishwarya, and guys, as you can see me all dressed up very neatly. Do you know why am I all dressed up like this? I'm dressed up for Congo Carnival. Okay guys, I wanna tell you something. In my class, a chapter was going on which was about DRC, Congo. DRC, the full form, Democratic Republic of Congo. And I found that chapter so much interesting. So I thought of sharing some interesting facts about DRC to you. And I thought it would be really fun. Okay, so let's just quickly get into the video. Oh, hey there people, welcome to Aishwarya's news channel. Time to visit the spectacular Congo Carnival with me, your host Aishwarya. Friends, let's visit DRC and see what's happening at the Congo Carnival. Some facts, as you know. Congo, or the Democratic Republic of Congo, located in the Central Africa and bordered by countries like Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, Zambia, Angola, and the Atlantic Ocean. I might as well say this country deserves to be the most social country in the world. We just have friends from every direction. The official language of DRC is French. Bonjour! DRC has a light blue flag with red and yellow lines and a star that represents the unity and the bright future of the country. As you can see here, Congo River that flows through the heart of the country is the deepest river in the world and forms a major economy. Now, let's come to the wildlife of DRC. We have bonobos, gorillas, chimpanzees, monkeys as well. As you can see here, animals found in marshy lands and in grasslands that are found in DRC. We have some animals like elephants, rhinoceros, even hippopotamus. We have lions also. As you can see here, aquatic animals that are found in rivers and lakes. Here we have alligator and crocodile and fish. You can see here. Now, the animals that are found in Ituri forest. You can see here we have okapi.
You can fast forward this and show the end of it only. I think the general idea, one has got a general idea of how it can be done. This is just one child was represented. So, you know, the class was divided into the various states of the various countries of Africa. And they could choose any one. They could choose any one and explain it through a PowerPoint. Of course, this is class 5 and 6. You can do that. With the younger ones, through a PPT presentation, etc., can be done. But the strategies that can be used for, you know, developing all of this could be through your jigsaw, where, you know, you give various and you know, then you can put the whole thing together and ask the children. For example, we wanted the children to talk about the animals. So every child was asked to do some kind of research work on animals, and you know that they came and represented the whole thing online to make sure that they understand how it can be done. Yes, Aishwarya. Yes, Shweta, there were some questions that needed to be answered. You can
Shweta, shall we close this video?
Yes, please. You can close it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, ma'am, can I ask few questions are there on the chat box?
Sure, sure.
Can we go ahead with the questions? And yeah, okay. So one question is how to teach map work online.
Well, I tried. It didn't work. It just doesn't work. What you can do is ask the children to bring an atlas to the class, and then you can put up your own map and explain from there. Otherwise, I really don't know. I haven't been able to figure out how one can teach map work online. But I guess the only way that can be done is maybe, have an atlas shared by everybody. Everybody brings their own atlas and then we can explain it.
Okay,
there's a question, what do you mean by jigsaw? Jigsaw, you have those puzzles where, you have small pieces that can be put together. That's the strategy. So what you do is you give every child little bit of the text to study and to explain, and then you put the whole thing together with everybody explaining in sequence. So the entire chapter can be divided between 10 children or 15 children, the number of children you have, and each group or each child does their own research on that particular portion, and then they explain that, and then the whole class can be put together. Yes, you can use Padlet. Padlet is a great way. In fact, today technology, you can use so many strategies. Suggest activities for history. I think for history, the lot of activities that can be done is through role play. I have taught, one thing that can be done very easily is take one strand of whatever needs to be done collectively. For example, if you're having 4 or 5 kingdoms that have to be taught in a lesson, let's take, this would be grade 7, it won't be grade 5, or it wouldn't be how to teach different. We'll come to those questions one by one. So, for example, you can take the administration of the Gupta Empire, Maurya Empire, about your Chola dynasty or your Pandyas, etc., and put the strand together. So, this is the administration of these various kingdoms that were there. Similarly, you can have the kind of society that was built. Take it in strands, and you will be able to complete a lot more collectively. It comes much easier. And you can also make a lot of comparative study when you are doing that.
Okay, ma'am, the next one more very interesting question is kindly explain how to teach wars, or how to explain wars, which will be more interesting for the children.
I think wars can be explained very well through films. If you have certain clips of movies that you can put together, I think that is something. If you're talking about understanding wars per se, that I think that is one way that one can learn about wars very well. Movies are a great source of learning about wars.
Okay, how do we teach different landforms in primary class?
Oh, I think, again, this can be, what I'll give you an example of what we did. You take a piece of thermocol and you take twig. You take twigs and you plant it there. Take a thin cloth, dip it into plaster of Paris, dip it, and then just pour it on top of that twig. You'll get the various landforms. You'll get the mountains, peaks, valleys, going right up to the plain. I think this was a project that we did for them to actually tactile understand what is a plateau, what is a mountain, what is a plain, how is a delta formed, the entire flow. Project work is a great way of helping them to understand how landforms can be understood. Ask them to do it at home. These days they're at home, teach them how to do it. I hope I'm able to understand.
Okay.
You're able to understand how to do it.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So once again, could you say, because I guess your voice was breaking. So
Okay. So take a piece of thermocol, or take a cardboard won't work. Thermocol works because you can insert, you can put twigs, dry sticks, twigs into it, and then you can take a piece of thin cloth, dip it in plaster of Paris, and then just put it on top of those twigs. You will, that thing will automatically take the shape of the twigs that are lying. And then if you paint it, you'll get the mountains, you'll get plateaus, you'll get plains, you'll get river, you'll get the entire physical features. And then they can even make a lot of landforms through clay, help them to make, actually make landforms through clay, and make them understand how it can be done. Play-Doh, yes, or atta, they can use all of this to make various kinds of landform.
how do we teach levels of government and democracy through online?
Through the newspaper. Make them read. Make them read what is happening day to day. Give them actually an opportunity.
Now one more question
of how
is
the entire
related.
system.
Sorry, ma'am. One more question just related to the same thing. How can we create civic or political class in the online session?
I haven't tried it, so very difficult for me to answer this question. This is not something that we have worked on. Teaching geography for grade 3 is very vague. What exactly do you want me to explain teaching geography for grade 3? What particular topic are you talking about? Parliament and its functions is very elementary for this level. When we are talking about roles and responsibilities, they have to they can understand from the newspapers. Yes. I'm sorry, Shweta, it's getting a little hazy right now.
Okay, ma'am, we'll go ahead with the PPT and then again we'll take the questions.
No, we can go ahead with the question.
PPT.
What is it?
No, ma'am, we will have question answer for 10 minutes. So we had question answer, no issues. We'll go ahead with the PPT. Then finally, again, in the last 10 minutes, we will have the Q&A, ma'am.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead with the PPT.
So I think this is what we've already talked about. Even sensitizing children related to family. Today families have become very complex. We do not have the usual nuclear family or joint family. You also have families that are single families, where there is a single parent. You have an adopted family where, child has been adopted. Children, sensitizing children to how the society is changing over a period of time is very, very important. For example, now the government has also accepted the fact that there are people of the same gender living together. And, sensitizing children that there is no hoo-ha about it. And it's okay if two men or two women live together to start a family and want to have children, adopt children, or whatever they want to do. It's perfectly all right. Sensitizing them on the ways of the way society is evolving is extremely, extremely important. Sensitizing them about how to take care of senior citizens, because, making them visit and, even doing small deeds, simple deeds in a day, making a diary entry of what are the good things that you have done in the day. These are various ways in which you can sensitize them towards the environment. It makes, social emotional learning today is very, very important. The United Nations is talking about your, what are they called? The SDG goals, the Sustainable Development Goals.
You know, we need at this point in time environmental science to make sure that our children get sensitized as far as how the environment is evolving is concerned. Right. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so it's a thematic approach. We know that we are doing it theme wise. So you have themes like family, you have themes like animals, you have transport. Water is a very, very important theme that is taught right from grade 1 to grade 10. When we talk about water, you're talking about sources of water, you're talking about properties of water, you're talking about the conservation and wastage of water, you're talking about access and unequal distribution of water. So all of this can actually be done through various projects. I remember in our school, we did a project on the Kabadiwala, where we talked about how much waste is coming out of homes. There is a question saying, allow us to unmute. You know, where, you know, the Kabadiwala, actually the amount of garbage that is coming out from homes and how it is causing pollution in the environment. We actually invited a Kabadiwala and one of our functions to, you know, applaud him for the kind of good work that he is doing. So, you know, these are various ways in which you can make our children socially aware and also socially sensitive. So various things that, ma'am, you're asking about links that need to be shared as far as social science is concerned. All this has to be done through exploration. You have to keep exploring and finding exactly what you need. My needs could be different from yours, and understanding, yeah, there is so much that is available on the net today that what you need, you type in those words and you have 101 websites opened up. So I can share what I have. Definitely I can share.
We'll share few links here on the chat box. We will share, or otherwise also we will share as Madhuban team later on, because whatever links is available here with us with Madhuban, we will share with all of you. Once our team is sharing the certificates and other things, we'll share the links with you. And ma'am, we'll go ahead with the PPT because questions will keep coming here. So if we again keep looking at the question and going the PPT, I'm sure you'll also, you know, just get a little distracted. I'm making note of questions here, so I'll ask the questions and then in the end, ma'am. And one more reason why we're unable to unmute all of you is because we have almost 840 participants now, 800 plus participants. So we would request you all to please put your questions here on the chat box, and we will make sure that all your questions have been answered. Just in case we're not able to take all the questions here, still we will take up your questions and give a revertal to you, probably in an email or something. So we'll certainly cater your questions. Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, so I'm just reading from this slide, which is EVS content and skills utilize the teaching learning process effectively in a way that social, emotional, and attitudinal values of the children are interwoven with the acquisition of knowledge skills rather than teaching them as an add-on activity or in an isolated manner. So social science, I've just told you that, you know, sensitizing our children for various aspects of whatever the topic could be. Right now, they're talking about cutting, harvesting, sowing, and plowing. You know, you could actually even talk about what you know, that, you know, it could be integrated with English. You can talk to the English language teacher that I am a scarecrow, you know, and what would I feel being put up in a field as a scarecrow? You know, the emotional aspect. What am I, what, you know, so you will get such wonderful answers coming from children saying that, you know, I am conserving the land, or I'm feeling hot, or, you know, I'm really, I feel for the farmer who is plowing the field, or, you know, so many things that can come up in a social science class. Believe me, there is no end to learning as far as a EVS class or a social science class is concerned. Can we go to the next slide, Shweta? So I've been talking about all of this: observing and reporting, exploring, sharing, narrating,
drawing pictures, reading, making pictures, collecting and recording information. All of this can be integrated when we are teaching environmental science. All of it. I think we've just discussed all of it. Role play, listening, talking. You know, the amount of communication skills that you can develop in an EVS class is probably much more than what you can do in a language class, because through various aspects of the project, you can explain so many activities, and you can have, what is very, very important as a teacher is that teacher talks less, student talks more. Allow the children to talk, allow the children to express themselves. You will be able to gauge as a teacher how much they know and how many misconceptions they have about certain things. When there is something that is wrong, you don't have to say this is incorrect. You say, yeah, what you're saying is correct from your perspective, but there's another aspect to it. Give the right answer and say, now you decide which of the two is correct, rather than, straight away say what you're saying is not correct. It gives the child a lot of confidence to be able to speak his or her mind in course of time. Yeah. I think I have explained all of this, Shweta. So
we'll take up questions, or you want to still further go and have a look at the entire PPT, ma'am?
I think while maybe I'll take up the question and we can come back to this if there is something that I have skipped from here.
Okay, so there was this thing of jigsaw that you were saying, and one teacher asked, like, if you can brief again, because she's not understood it correctly. So if you could please elaborate what is the jigsaw puzzle?
Okay, so there is one, how can we teach longitude and time in an online class in grade 6? There's this question. My thing, you can explain the concept of how longitude and time is correlated by explaining that the Earth takes 24 hours to complete one revolution, and there are 360 degrees of longitude. Therefore, 4 minutes for each longitude to come before the sun. It is all blah, 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 and more blah, blah. So what you need to do is ask them to find out today. You have a smartphone, you have various devices. Give them 6 or 7 cities and tell them to find out the time of all these cities. You can give them London, you can give them Delhi, you can give them say Melbourne, you can give them Tokyo, you can give them London, you can give them New York. Give them that on a particular day at this particular time, find out the time on these cities. Okay, so say supposing right now the time here is 4:45. At 4:45 in Delhi, what is the time in Melbourne? What is the time in Tokyo? What is the time in London? What is the time? To be able to understand the concept of longitude and time will be very, very easy then. So take that. Of course, you have to explain the concept of why there is difference in time because of the Earth's rotation, that when it's rotating on its axis, the sun is coming, the various longitudes are coming in front of the sun. It makes life very, very easy for them to understand. Similarly, even if you have to explain seasons, take cities or take places from one from the northern hemisphere, one from the southern hemisphere. I did this with my children in grade 6 way back, long back. I'm talking about 20 years back, when I asked them to design a costume for Santa Claus, one coming from Finland and the other one coming from Australia. I said, just design a costume for both these Santa Clauses and see whether it coincides with the kind of season. I said, can you imagine a Santa Claus in Australia, maybe Darwin, wearing, that fur cap and the sledge and snow? There is no snow at that point in time. You'll probably have the Santa Claus in Bermudas and shorts because it's summer there. Understanding those concepts about the difference in season is very easy then. So, through drawing, through exploring, a lot can be done. A lot of it can be done. Any other questions, Shweta?
Yes, ma'am. How to teach money and credit in interesting way?
Money and credit. I think, you know, give them the concept of having a certain amount of money and to go shopping with the amount of money that they have, right? They'll be able to understand that they have just about 50 rupees or whatever, you know, they can choose the amount themselves. That if there are only 50 rupees in their pocket and they have to buy something which is 60 rupees or 70 rupees, then they have to take credit. Yeah, they can do it from that perspective and take it forward. You know, the thing is, for every teacher, you have to think out of the box and creatively yourself. First, think of various things that you can do with your class, because what can work with one teacher may not work with another.
There's another question which says how to teach administration of Mughals and their recruitment process.
I didn't get the question. I'm sorry.
How to teach administration of Mughals and their recruitment process.
Mughals?
Huh.
How to teach Mughal? The Mughal dynasty.
Yes.
Oh, I think you'll have to take the entire. I'm sorry, I won't be able to answer that question too well myself yet.
Okay, state capital language food festival. Okay, can you please elaborate a little more on, like, when you were teaching them, no ma'am, you can do some activity on the state, the capital, the language, food and festival. Say
Yeah.
Punjab ka you had showed one picture here.
Yeah.
So could you just elaborate a little more on that? By one example you gave us Tamil Nadu. So something on those lines, if you have some other example or something else the teachers can do.
You know, see, what is very, very important is, you know, I had to take a Madhuban workshop in Allahabad. So I told them, I said, look, the first thing that I would do if I had to go to Allahabad is find out where the name came from. Who gave this name Allahabad to the city? Then who were the people? Who were the important people who have lived in this town and have influenced the character or the culture of the city? What is the kind of architecture that you have? What are the important places that you have? Why is Prayagraj important? Why is this confluence of the three rivers important? How is it that the confluence of these three rivers takes place here, and where does the river go from here? There is so much that you can do related to any place. You know, it's about giving children idea of all that can be researched on. And believe me, you give children just a little bit, the excitement with which they complete the whole thing is. So you could do it, find out about why did Telangana divide itself, why did Andhra Pradesh divide itself into Telangana and Andhra Pradesh? What are the cities? What is the capital? Why is this capital being created? You know, what is the from where is the revenue generated for these various states? So much that you can do. What is the kind of food? You know, on what basis did this state get divided? So much, you know, there's so much that you can research on. I would actually ideally take up states from 4 different regions. I would take up maybe a state from one from South India, one from West India, one from East India, and one from North India, and then teach them the diversities of our Indian heritage and our Indian culture. Because there would be marginal difference in terms of landform between, say, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. You know, there is difference, but you know, there's not much. But between Kerala and Tamil Nadu and Kashmir, there are huge differences in terms of language, in terms of food, in terms of culture. So, you know, they need to understand and they need to get sensitized about all these things also.
Ma'am, in the last slide, there is a topic about learning environment. Can you elaborate on that? And can we move ahead with the slide, please, Stalin?
Yeah,
can you
sure,
change the
sure.
slide?
Sure.
Next, Stalin. Next. Yeah, thank you. The previous one.
Yeah. So how do you create a learning environment?
environment for learning, environment as learning, environment of learning. So all of it put together. So you can see here that learning environments, what? Use environmental objects and environment as learning resource. First of all, I would like you to understand what do you mean by, the difference between off learning, for learning, as learning. Is there a difference between these three terminologies? When we talk about learning, off learning, when we say off learning, we are talking about formative assessments. That, when you have taught a particular concept, how well have the children been able to understand? This assessment can be taken in various ways. You could take it in the form of the recap that you do with the children every single day. It could be in the form of a quiz. It could be in the form of some learning that they do from the internet or from one of your tools that you use, maybe a Microsoft form or whatever can be done, so that you understand that, the children are on a learning curve. They are understanding what they are learning about a particular topic. When we talk about for learning, it is about summative assessment, where the entire assessment of whatever the topic has been done, which is a larger chunk, can be taken and assessed, where we make diagnosis, we diagnose it and see where is the child in this learning curve. Does he need or she need more assistance in terms of any one particular concept that they've learned? As learning is when they are doing learning in terms of experiential learning from various other sources other than the textbook to enhance their own learning. So this is what I would say as far as this is concerned. Learning environment is a focus on the meaning, learning for growth, support for each person, structure of each person, collaboration and add value, energy. When we are talking about all these things, it is about how collaborative work can be done well in. So, what I would do is take the children or you even ask children, take one stick and try to break it. It'll break. Take a number of sticks and tie it up together, and then you try to break it, it won't. That is collaborative work. So when we put all our work together in a certain amount of energy, the outcome that comes out of it is far, far more profound.
Ma'am, there's a question which says how case study helps students.
How do case studies help students? I think there is no better way than doing case studies, because you go in depth into a particular topic. If you're going to do a case study, say about Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, you're going deep into that subject, trying to learn everything about that subject. If you're going to do case studies about the pygmies of Congo, you're going to be doing so much of research about them. The knowledge that the children will gain will not be peripheral. It will be internalized and it will be in-depth knowledge. Case studies are very important, and that is what project work is all about. It's about taking up case studies only.
So now, since we are all under this, lockdown where children are not allowed to come to school, so is there some games that we can do during the virtual classes which will help children to understand
so many quizzes
better?
What is important is that if you give them a heads up a day in advance and tell them that this is what they're going to be doing, read up and come. Flip classes are working very, very well at this point in time, where they are learning at home and you come back and take a quiz on whatever they have studied, and you will see that the children are engaged and are so enthusiastic about doing what they are doing.
Okay. A little bit more on the map, if you can say, ma'am, like how can there's this 10th standard, I'll just read out, any idea for geography map work for class 10?
I think the CBSE has very well articulated in that text of what is expected. I think they have very, very clearly defined so please get onto the CBSE website and see from there what are the portions that have been deleted, and even as far as map work is concerned, what all is included in the map work. It's given very well on the CBSE website.
Okay. There's one other question here. Since we are uploading the class in the video classes video in YouTube instead of taking live classes, what methods can be used to make them understand better from the recorded video? So how well they can make children understand since they are not able to take live classes, they're only recording the video and uploading. So how best a teacher can, make children understand in the recorded video, ma'am?
See, that is something where the teacher can put in questions and stuff like that and make sure that the answers are given. I am not sure how well this is working really. I really don't know. Because we are having live classes and we don't have recorded classes. We are sending recorded classes only to those children who are missing out class. So those children who are observing the recorded classes come back and ask the teacher of the portions that they haven't understood. I don't know how well it will work in places where they cannot have any much connectivity, really.
How to make online classes more interactive and lively? Could you please suggest something like, yeah, we are doing quizzes and a few other things.
The things that work very well is making the children do the work that the teachers were doing earlier, making them study the topics themselves, and coming and actually doing the role play of a teacher in the online class. Works very well. And they are able to complete a whole lot of syllabus I have seen.
So you're saying the teacher takes the role of the child and the student takes the role of the teacher. So they
absolutely, and the teacher should be asking as many questions as possible.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. So okay, can you suggest some focus techniques? How they can bring in more focus for children? Some techniques on that.
So we have frequent breakouts. We also make sure that we do a few breathing exercises time and again. And another thing that is working is what we talk about, the 20-20-20, which is that for 20 seconds, you look far, you look away from the screen. 20 seconds, you blink your eyes rapidly. And for 20 seconds, you palm your eyes. It has a very, very calming effect on the children. In fact, it has a very calming effect on us because we are also online most of the time. So what I do is I look at a distance for about 20 seconds, then blink my eyes for 20 seconds, and then palm my eyes for 20 seconds. It's cathartic. It's very, very calming.
Okay. How to teach Constitution in interesting ways? Suggest some ideas because it's a little boring for kids.
Constitution, I have done it through a role play where you have the election in your class, and right now you can do elections even online. So you have that's how it can be done.
Okay, now in history, one thing is very important, ma'am, which is years. So usually children forget the years. So what is it that they can do? Teachers can give them some tips so that they can remember those years.
Some mnemonics. They have to create some mnemonics for them to learn. Like I shared with you that, for the children to understand the sequence of the planets, a mnemonic was created of my very educated mother just served us nuts. So if they understand this mnemonic, they know the chronological order of the various planets. So the teacher can create mnemonics for making them understand timelines, or how they can remember some of these things better.
Okay. So, okay, ma'am, if there are any further questions that I've missed out or anything that is there which is still popping up, we will definitely mail it to you, and I'm sure you'll help us with the answers for that.
I will.
Thank you.
I really wish the technology was better. Seeing conducting this webinar through my phone has not been a very pleasant journey for me. I normally prefer a larger screen, but anyway, I have been able to manage whatever best I could on this small screen, and I look forward to helping out anybody whoever needs any kind of assistance.
Certainly, ma'am. Thank you so much. Stalin, could you please stop sharing the screen? So thank you, teachers. Thank you all so much. Before we wind up, I would request Stalin from Hyderabad to please deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sweta. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, thank you so much for taking time and conducting this webinar. I hope the knowledge will be a benefit to all the participants who all are joined with us. And to the teachers, we are very much thankful to you, ma'am, in your very busy schedule, online classes and making material ready and all other stuff is very challenging. Even though the challenges you have been facing, you have all taken time and attended this webinar.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Very encouraging that has been, yes.
No, absolutely, madam. I could see because I've been interacting with a lot of teachers and they are giving a lot of challenges that what they are going through. And this many teachers are joining this platform itself is saying whatever, whether it is pandemic or the regular days, we are there to encourage the kids and to continue the education. Thank you so much, teachers. And our product managers, Sweta Sudha, and as well as Mr. Biju Nair, and our AVP, Dinesh Babu, who has created this platform to bring all the teachers together. Thank you so much. And last but not the least, our Madhuban team, they have been they've taken this initiative and bringing 840 people on this platform itself is an achievement. I'm congratulating all the people who are been part of this. And thank you so much. I hope all the teachers have been benefited with this webinar. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am, once again. And thanks to everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, Stalin. Thank you so much. So before closing, I would just request all the teachers who participated here and taken your time out. We will be sharing a feedback link, which you would receive in your inbox. We will mail it to you. I request you all to please take 5 minutes of your time and please share your valuable suggestions and feedback. And also we'll be sharing e-certificates with all the participants. A few teachers have asked if we can share the recording. We will certainly share the recording and we will mail you the PPT as well. So your concerned executive will mail you all the other details, but you will be receiving feedback link alone from the same email ID for which you had received the joining link. Thank you all so much. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Shweta. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello.